Coach, you guys got off to a great start last season, including a victory over Temple. Then you had some injuries that led to some struggles in the second half. How do you get that momentum back in 2019?
It's hard. You know, every year you're going to go, it's going to be different. You're going to have some graduating seniors, you're going to have some incoming freshmen. So you hope the team, you know, can come together, develop some chemistry and those type of things. I don't have the answer to the injury bug. I wish I did, you know, so if we could have had the same 11 players on both sides of the ball from the Temple game all the way through, things could have been a little differently, but you know, that's football. It comes with it, so you got to overcome the adversity when it hits and try to move forward. So I'm not sure what the answer to the injury bug is, as I just mentioned, so let's hope we can try to avoid that this year, and if we can do that, then I think we have a chance.
You know, and looking at things offensively, you have to replace 7 starters, including your quarterback. But who are some of those players you expect to fill those roles, especially, you know, at quarterback and running back?
Well, we have, I'll start with the running back position, I guess. That's a rotational position. You're going to play more than one guy. Aaron Forbes, who was second-team All-League CAA and our leading rusher the last 2 years, he did graduate, but we have Justin Covington and Jalen Jackson back, so some guys that have played significant snaps. So we feel pretty good about the running back situation. The quarterback is still competition. Jack Shetlick is our returning guy with the most experience. He's the guy who has backed up Zach, our graduating quarterback, for the previous 2 years, and then Kadir Ishmael, who played some last year as a true freshman. Those are the 2 guys that are, you know, competing through the spring and then carrying into the preseason practice. Up front, we have some returning players. So on paper, you only have 4 returning starters. You lost 7, but when you look at number 1, the guys that got significant snaps last year because of injury to some of the other guys. That'll help hopefully moving forward. And then when you look at a position, as I mentioned, like running back or wide receiver, you rotate so many guys through. Sometimes a guy who's not listed as a starter might actually play more snaps in a game than the guy who is listed as a starter because he was in there for a series that was longer or something like that at wide receiver. You're going to play 4 or 5, maybe even 6 guys. So we do have some good receivers coming back. Shenga Hodge going into his senior year, Josh McGrigg going into his senior year, Zach Kirkston going into his senior year. They've all played a lot of football for us. So even though we lost starting slot receiver Jarrett McClinton, we lost starting tight end Ryan Bell, some of those guys missed games through injury. So the returning guys, as I mentioned, the receivers, and then Simon Bengelis and Todd Summers at tight end, they played a lot of football for us. So we do have some experience coming back, even though on paper we don't have a lot of starters coming back.
Sure. You know, on the other side of the ball, you have 6 starters back from a unit that's traditionally been really strong. How do you feel about those guys? And again, who are some of those players you're expecting big years from? Again,
when you look at the linebacker or D-line position, more so the D-line position. We did lose 2 starters. When you look at, we play a 3-down configuration on defensive line, so we only have 1 returning starter, Aaron Siegel, coming back. We lost Brian White, our nose guard. We lost Javante Johnson, our other D-end. But we have Owen Thomas, we have Jarrett Nelson, we have Malik Fisher, we have guys that have been on the field and have had Peter Fallon, who's a returning senior, so he played a lot of snaps as a backup or a rotational guy. So again, you have experience there, but on paper, you lose 2 of the 3 starters. At linebacker, we have Drew Wiley, who's here with me today. He's going to be a 3-year starter. We have Keeling Hunter, who's going to be a 2-year starter. So we really only lost 1 true starting linebacker in Jeff Steeb. And then we have Forrest Ryan, Amin Black, Trajan Anderson, who all played significant snaps last year. So again, we feel pretty good at the depth there. Okay, we don't have the starters, so-called starters coming back. We have guys that played a lot for us. And in the secondary, you have Julian Williams. He's going to be a 3-year starting strong safety. Chucky Smith, who's a 5th-year senior, coming back at safety. Our corners are back. Jaquan Amos, who started for 2 years as a freshman and sophomore and has played really well for us. Christian Benford, who was the CAA Rookie of the Year last year, starting at the other corner. Nola Awapetu, who played a ton because of some injury we had to guys like Rob Roll and those type of situations. So, again, we don't have a lot of depth. That's the problem, not only at Villanova, but with FCS football. You don't have the same roster. You don't have the same amount of depth with 63 scholarships versus 85 scholarships at the FBS level. Our roster was only at 92 last year, even though the NCAA says you can bring in 110 for preseason. And I'm not sure what JMU and Delaware and Stony Brook and some of the state schools carry, but I think it's more than our 92. So depth is always an issue, but we feel pretty good about the returning players we have coming back. So, and as you mentioned, 7 listed starters on defense. Depending on what game you're looking at, there's probably more than that because, you know, we did start other players that are coming back in various games that needed to start due to injury. So, you know, we do have a young team in one aspect, but some guys coming back with significant game experience. And if you ask me, there's no substitution for game experience. You know, they can practice, you know, as much as you can in the spring and in the preseason and obviously throughout the season. But, you know, getting in a game and getting experience under your belt in the game moving forward is always important. And we have a lot of guys that have had an opportunity to do that. Some of them maybe weren't ready when they got their opportunity. They were forced to play because of some of the injury to the older guys. But I think moving forward, now that they're getting into their second and third year, those snaps that they got early on in their career will benefit them moving forward.
Definitely. You know, you guys are going to be on a national stage, first game of the college football season, playing Colgate on CBS Sports Network. How excited are your players about that opportunity?
I think they're excited. You know, I know right now, based off the last couple seasons we've had, how we started, how we finished, and then kind of stumble in the middle of our seasons in the last 2 years through the injury and so on that we've already talked about. I think our guys are just excited to get training camp started in general. Do they get extra excited if it's a televised game? I'm sure they do. You know, they're 18 to 23-year-old young men, and, you know, a game and being the first game and knowing they're going to have an opportunity to be on TV, I'm sure that adds a little bit. But I think they're our team right now, from what I'm seeing and what we've talked about from hearing from some of the guys. They're just excited to get back out there, get on the field, and, you know, get the season started in general.
You know, and over the last 4 years, 10 of the CAA's 12 teams have earned playoff berths. How tough is it to compete in this conference week in, week out, and what does it say about the conference that 10 out of the 12 teams have made the playoffs?
Well, you hear people talk about it all the time, especially the people that are here today with us at Media Day. We do feel that this is the most challenging conference in the country, top to bottom. Now, there's some other great programs or great schools out there, starting with North Dakota State. No one can duplicate or, you know, go head-to-head with what they've been doing these last few years. But when you go week in and week out, just look at last year. We had 6 teams in the playoffs for the first time ever out of the selection of 24, and our best record was 8-3, and most of them were 7-4. So we kind of beat each other up during the course of the year, but still have the respect of the committee to still put our teams in the playoffs with that 7-4, that kind of bubble record, if you will, to get into the playoffs. So week in and week out, you got to be ready. And, you know, we all challenge ourselves with a out-of-league schedule. You know, a lot of us will play an FBS team like we did last year with Temple. You know, we open up with Colgate this year, the winner of the Patriot League for multiple years in a row now, and, you know, last year's national leading defense coming back. You know, they graduated some guys, obviously, just like everybody, but, you know, they have a real good culture and tradition of winning up there with Coach Hunt. So, you know, we challenge ourselves in our non-league schedule, and then when you're playing your 8 league games, no matter who you're facing in this league, you better be ready to strap it on because you know it's going to be a battle.
Good deal. Well, thanks, Coach.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You got it.